Dramatic lighting seems to go well with this review. Let's do it. Good day to you, ladies and gentlemen. This is the episode 55 and welcome to another film review. It's been a little time since the last one, but I had to go back and get this one done. It's not opening day, but it has to be done. Man of Steel time, let's review it. And yeah, as usual, we're just going to talk about the good and the bad of the film, but firstly let's talk about the story. So the story in Man of Steel is basically a retelling of the Superman origin story. Basically, we have Kal-El, like the last son of Krypton, who is sent away before his planet is destroyed, and he goes to live on the planet Earth, where he is raised by his adoptive parents, Martha and Jonathan Kent, and he has to live with the fact that he's technically an alien living in a human world, and grow up with the complications that come with that in terms of being lonely, not being able to know who you are, and so on and so forth. So later on in Kal-El's adult years, General Zod comes along to Earth and wreaks havoc, and he wants Kal-El for himself to go back and get revenge for what happened in the past. So then it's up to Kal-El, aka Clark Kent, aka Superman, to go about and take the guy out. And that is the story synopsis of the film without going into the area of spoilers. So let's talk about the good and the bad of the film, starting with the good. In terms of the story, I like what they did with it. It was a nice, updated, modern version of what we've come to know from the previous two older Christopher Reeve films. And it just had a little bit more of a kick to it. There was a little bit more of a faster pace, and I like the way in which they done Superman's origin story, because we've seen Superman's origin story before, a few times over, and the way in which it was done in this film was that we saw it, but it was a little bit more condensed due to the fact that it was in flashbacks in terms of the childhood stuff, but the way in which it was executed was pretty nice, and the overall story was nice. It was just pretty good. Now, Henry Cavill as Superman, the main person himself, was really good. I wasn't sure if he was going to be up to the task of being such an iconic character, but he brings a new level of seriousness, drama, and I guess a more human side to the character that we haven't seen before. And I just thought he was great. He had a nice screen presence, and he was really epic. I love the way he shouts in the film. It was really cool. Also, Amy Adams in the film, she was cool. I liked her version of Lois Lane. She has Lois Lane's unnecessary habit of running into dangerous situations and going to great lengths to try and get a story. And then there's Michael Shannon as well. I thought Michael Shannon was really cool as Zod. He was pretty epic, and he actually got to throw down Superman, and that was pretty badass. Also, Michael Keaton and Diane Lane as Jonathan and Martha Kent were really nice. I loved the way in which they had a little bit more of a substantial and, bigger presence than any of the previous versions that I've seen in the film universe so far. Also, Russell Crowe as Jor-El in this film, he was pretty badass. I mean, his character really got an update in this film, and it was interesting to see the way in which he was, depicted in this movie. It was really cool, and this is probably the coolest role I've seen Russell Crowe in for quite some time, so, props to him. It was awesome. And the lady that happened to play, Zod's assistant / follower, she was pretty cool as well. Definitely got to throw it down. Also, Laurence Fishburne in the film as Perry White was great. I just wish I'd seen a lot more of him. There needed to be more Laurence Fishburne, And lastly, the lady that played Kal-El's mother in the film, I love what she did with the role. It was a lot more substantial than the person that went about and did it in the 1978 film. You can see that she actually genuinely cared for her son, and, she just got a little bit more time on the screen, and that was greatly appreciated. Also, the special effects and CGI, in my opinion, the best part of the film is freaking ridiculous. You actually get to see Superman throw down with people in probably the best sort of CGI special effects way that, a lot of us have been hoping for. The action is fast hitting, it's intense, and it's just you can feel the punches, boom, it's damn, man, ow, I felt that over here. But yeah, seeing Superman go up against, General Zod, go up against his little minions, actually save the day and do all these sort of special fancy things, it was some good stuff, it's some cool stuff. And towards the latter part of the movie where the action really just takes over, I've seen a lot of crazy action sequences in my time, but some of this stuff is just incredible. The cinematography and the crazy camera angles and just the amount of detail that they can get done is really cool. And I also love seeing how they got so many of Superman's powers right in terms of the strength, his speed, and flying. Superman can fly so freaking fast in this movie. It's so cool, and it's just yeah, finally, Superman, when he goes supersonic, it's he's gone. Damn. Now let's talk about the bad. For me, I had very, 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 very high expectations for this movie. People were hyping this movie like it was going to be the next Dark Knight movie. And when people hype it up to that kind of, like, you know, high level, I expect something to, like, you know, blow me away. And I have to say that my expectations were set far too high, because this film, as good as it was, wasn't like, you know, the sort of powerhouse movie that I was expecting. There are still comic book films that are like, you know, was it miles better than this, in my opinion. And again, this is not to say that the film is disappointing by any means. I just had high expectations, and the critics hyped this film up to the highest degree, but my expectations were not met. I guess that's just due to the fact that, like, the film unfolded in a way that I did not expect, and I guess listening to all those critics does get you, like, you know, hyped up. But yeah, that's one complaint. Other complaints I'd say I have with the film is literally just down to, some of the story elements. Now, there is aspects of the film that's in flashbacks, and for the majority of the time, the flashbacks do work, but there's certain points where it does get a little, I don't know, long, and sometimes there's certain flashbacks that come in where it's just not needed, where I think the whole of, like, the backstory of Superman or whatever else is going down in the film has been explained already, so some of the flashbacks are a bit And there's certain moments where the film switches between, like, you know, a sort of action heavy element to, like, you know, a softer part, and it just didn't feel like, you know, it blended all that well. And there's also just the overall cohesiveness that just doesn't seem to click for me over the first, I don't know, hour of the film. The first hour of the film is very dramatic, setting up for, like, you know, the sort of grander things that'll be taking place in the latter part of the movie. But for me, it just sort of felt a bit iffy. I don't know if it's just me, but, like, you know, it just felt a little iffy, but then the film sort of found its pace around halfway through, and then, like, you know, as it just soared on through until the end. And lastly, even though I love Hans Zimmer to death, his soundtrack for the film, while good, just didn't blow me away as much as a lot of his previous soundtracks have, so again, tiny nitpick, but otherwise it's all good. So to conclude, ladies and gentlemen, Man of Steel is a pretty damn good Superman film. In fact, I'd probably say it's the best one we've got since the 1978 film. The film is very serious and very realistic in tone, and while that may work for a lot of, like, you know, diehard Superman fans or people who have been, like, you know, turned off by the campy nature of the older films, I kind of miss part of that light-hearted nature of it, because it was just a little bit more, like, you know, simple and fun. But again, this is from Zack Snyder and producing person Christopher Nolan. They've done a fine job, and Zack Snyder, after Sucker Punch, I thought he was going to destroy this film, but Man of Steel was surprisingly pretty good. Just not as epic as I thought it'd be. Loads of people going on about this film like it's, like, the best thing since sliced bread, and for me, no. It's good, but not that good. As for a rating, 8.5 out of 10. Probably have to see it again before I can go about and, like, you know, pass judgment properly, but I'd say, Man of Steel, go out and watch it. Best film of the year? Pfft, of course, might as well be. So, what did you think of the movie? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Were your expectations set too high? Or did it meet your expectations, or did it exceed them? Do you agree with me, or do you disagree? Comment below and, you know, let me know. Do be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and join the revolution that is the Hypersonic 55. So, until the next time, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Hypersonic 55 signing out, yo. Boom!